year is coming to an end, but the local summit moves on. And there may be some other announcements, though, because the end of the year has a lot of things happening in the community. Does anybody have any announcements they want to make? Carol?
I've got posters for the I'm Not Racist, Am I? movie on May 1st, and Local Summit is one of the three groups that's sponsoring. So if you have a church, synagogue, community center, school, whatever, a place where you can hang a copy of this, it would be deeply appreciated. So,
I'll take one.
Great. Anybody else have any announcements? Community announcements? Yes.
That Home on the Sound Gala is on May 12. I hope many of you got invitations. If you didn't, tell me and I hope to see you there.
Thank you. Anything else?
Just
yes.
Quickly, you all received a flyer for Drug Take Back Day, which is coming up April 30th. Take this home, use it as a reminder, post it in your favorite place around the community. But I hope you'll all take advantage of the day and also the opportunity to meet the new mayor of Larchmont-Mamaroneck.
Yes.
Wearing the souvenir of the 76 Olympics, I'm just reminding you that one of the most important reasons we're here is the book, The Boys in the Boat, and the wonderful job the librarians have done in promoting the book read to this event.
I was about to say that our program today is our way of participating in that local book read. Are there any other activities, Susan, that you want to talk about that are happening before the end of the month, which is just a few days away?
Well, tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock, we're having a big book discussion group along with the At Home on the Sound. So, and we have several other programs coming up, so please check our website, either the Mamaroneck Library or the Larchmont Library's website, to see the activities that are still coming up.
Thank you. Those of you who read the book, The Boys on the Boat, about the Olympic team, 1936? I always get the date wrong. Anyway, one of the things that comes out from the book is the fact that all of these boys who participated, young men who participated, came from very poor backgrounds, but they all met at the University of Washington. Though they came from poor backgrounds, they all had access to higher education, and in fact, all became, I think almost all of them became engineers, as I read the afterward, but they all became family people and participators in their communities because of their opportunity, the opportunity they had to have that education. Today we're going to talk about what opportunities those from lower income families have in our own community for higher education, and those who perhaps are not even interested in college immediately. What options does our community offer, for those kinds of students? I'm going to turn the meeting over to Janet. Janet O'Connell.
So good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming. It's great to see you. So I just wanted to note that I'm just part of a committee that put this program together, and Bob Hayden, Mary Lee Berridge, our intrepid treasurer over there, Janet Bookbinder, and Keith Yeiser were on the committee. And as Elaine just said, we chose this this program for two reasons. One was because of Boys in the Boat, and the other was because of President Obama's recent emphasis on higher education. He wants to return the United States to its preeminent role of having the largest number of college graduates, and he's looking to the community colleges, two-year colleges, to help fulfill this. A couple of quick facts. 94% of Westchester County high school graduates will attend post-secondary schooling, and 45% of Westchester County residents over the age of 25 have BAs or higher. This is much higher than the national average, and I think that's something that we actually lose sight of in our sort of Larchmont-Mamaroneck bubble. We're very happy to have two speakers with us today, Kathy Quackenbush and Teresita Wassell, right? And Kathy describes herself as a product of both private and public education, went to St. Lawrence University and then worked in college admissions for a few years before deciding she preferred working with students, and went back and got her graduate work at SUNY Albany. She been at Mamaroneck High School 2 times. One was back in the early 2000s and then returned in 2014 to be the coordinator of counseling at Mamaroneck High School. And our second guest is Teresita Wissell, who is from Westchester Community College. And I think we actually have this amazing asset right here in our county, and I think I personally tend to lose sight of that. Teresita is the Vice President and Dean of Workforce Development and Community Education, and also the Executive Director of Community College Consortium for Immigrant Education. And recently she was honored at the White House as her role as a champion of change, promoting citizenship in the workplace. So I hope Kathy will help us understand how she helps students, local students, decide what their higher education path might be. And then I think Teresita will be able to give us an overview of Westchester Community College, how she helps her students make their education and vocational choices. So please join me in welcoming our guest today.
Well, thank you for having me. I see a lot of familiar faces out here. Glad to be here. So this is a great community to be working in, and I've got to say we have such a variety of interests in our community and with our students, and with regards to what they would like to do. But again, 85% of our students are going on to 4-year colleges, and the rest, about 8%, are going on to 2-year schools. And of the remaining 7-8%, some are not going to college, but in that group we also have perhaps the developmentally disabled. We have some international students going back home, a very small percentage of students going into the military, and still a small percentage of students taking a year off or a gap year, and a very small percentage of students who will be doing an additional year at a prep school. You've heard of that, perhaps? So again, we hear of the trends that are happening out there. We hear that college is becoming so expensive. We've crossed over into $70,000 now for the most expensive college per year. So it used to be 60, was 50, now 70. And we think, where does this money come from? Yeah, used to be a house. It's coming, though, I will say. It happens. Perhaps it's people's real estate is worth enough that perhaps it's, well, you know, we can borrow from the mortgage, things like that. It comes. Still, we work with such a variety of families when they talk about colleges that there are still many who say, we're not going to worry about that. And we do work with families who say we need to worry about that. Our main goal in working with families is to get that above board before we start going through the process, because there are so many ways to work with this process. You have the private schools that, as I just said, will go up to $70,000 a year. You have a variety of private schools that, if they are very interested in you, will discount your tuition. If you're in a ballpark where they love what you look like compared to their student body, then all of a sudden the money will start flowing, and a $70,000 school could cost $40,000. You have to be interested in looking at schools in that range for your child, and some families will do that and some families will not. Then we have the state system. Out-of-state state schools can cost into the $40,000s for your child. In our state system, the 4-year schools are in the low 20s, I would say, still. So the 2-year schools, and I would say when our students choose to go to a 2-year school, it's almost exclusively WCC. Westchester, I can't think of a scenario where Westchester has not helped us out. They help such a variety of students. I would never hesitate. I can't think of one scenario where I would not legitimately recommend Westchester. I'm not just saying that because Terry's here. I've known her for a very long time. They just do such an amazing job with any type of a student, whether it's a student that really has no other financial option. $3,000 a year for tuition from a nationally renowned academic institution, who are experts in getting your credits that you're taking there to count wherever you decide to go. Always keeping in mind where you're deciding to go if a four-year college is your final destination. So that's always above board. It's not kept secret. If your goal is to move on after WCC, that's what they'll talk to you about. Often, I would imagine some students want to stay for 1 year, and that's a reasonable conversation to have with the transfer counselors. That's their job, to help you get to the next step. So inherent when I talk to students about community college is they can help anyone in the community. There might be some of you here who've taken classes there. They will help anyone in the community to further their education. So I think the first students they see from us would be the most common students who say, this makes sense for me financially. Other students that they'll see will be students who say, you know what, I was young in high school, I didn't do everything the way I wanted to do it. I want a little bit of a reset. I want better opportunities for myself, whether it's to capture the scholarships that I was not able to, or to capture the acceptance letters I was not able to in high school. So I want to better my academic track record. So that's another group of students that will often seek WCC. When you go to a two-year school from a high school and put in enough time, sometimes it's 1 year, sometimes it's the full associates, depending on where you're applying next, then your high school record means so much less. When you're applying to college as a high school senior, they're trying to guess how you're going to do college level work. That's why SATs and ACTs become a little more important at that time. Well, let's face it, a lot more important. They're trying to guess how you're going to do college level work. They don't know. You're young, they have no idea how you're going to adapt to college, and your reading levels, how long it's going to take you to do all this work. Once you do the college level work, you've done it. So they look very little then at your high school track record at that point. Some not at all, other than to say, well, we have it here, but now we see what you've done. When I explain that to students, sometimes they'll say, but it's WCC. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. This is college level work from college professors who are teaching the same courses that you would have taken at that campus. Oh. And that's what the articulation is. So in high school, they don't always understand that it's not the same. They think because it's right down the road, there has to be a big difference. But I think, and I'm sure Terry will speak to that, the idea is that it's not different. They're getting you ready for what's next to come. So I know that there are nationwide trends. I wait for them to apply to our community, and they're a little bit slower to apply to our community, I think. And perhaps that's the same with many communities, meaning the way that people think and they talk together. Our number of students, although when the economy is not great, you see slight increases of students going to state schools and community colleges. But when I looked at the data, it wasn't huge numbers. There are trends. I think that for the past 20 years in our field, everyone goes to college. Everyone goes to college. We never saw a trend away from that. Although in the back of our minds, we knew that there were many students that were going to WCC who maybe were not students. Well, they weren't students in high school. But everyone goes to college, everyone goes to college. So they might end up, and that's probably the students that are not as successful at WCC, is because they're there because they were forced there. But I think of some of those students, they probably see some success. I'm sure that Terry will speak to that as well. And there's support for those students as well that I've seen there. Students who don't do well in high school have had opportunities at private schools. That's another thing you will see. As counselors, we have mixed feelings about that, especially if it's a hardship for the family or if we see the writing on the walls. But there are often very expensive options in private schools for students that have not been academically motivated students in high school. But if you want to pay for the experience of the students to go away, they can be accepted at quite a few academic institutions. And then you have to hope that the structure that's in place there is going to get them through, or they will end up coming home. So again, we know that a better opportunity for those students is probably to stay home and start slow, in many cases. So there's an awful lot of opportunities, but financially, none is better than WCC at the $3,000 a year to get you going, unless you are working closely with us. We have at the high school a financial aid advisor who works closely with our families. She's there she's 4 days a week. She will help students fill out the financial aid forms and their families and get them on track for getting what they're eligible for to afford the private colleges and the state colleges and make the best out of their financial situation. So there are also other programs that we know if you fit into the right category, you can do very well financially and have great opportunities. The HEOP program, the Questbridge program, but some of these are very specific ways into four-year colleges and universities. No matter how you try, you may not fit the criterion for that. So again, a lot of our families may not qualify for aid. A lot of upper middle class or middle class families in Westchester do not qualify for what you consider state or federal aid. So the income is too high, so they're expected to be able to pay full ride for the colleges. So therein lies the dilemma of trying. We need to convince some of those families to consider the other options if they're interested. The state schools that we know are wonderful, they can also consider the schools for which their child may, and I don't even want to say overqualified, the schools where their child is a comfortable admit, and those schools have a very, very healthy budget. They have millions of dollars to say, we would love to have your child and to add your child's numbers to our numbers, and we will make it worth your while by 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand a year. So that is the one area where we get some doubt or disinterest. And that's how we try to advise families in some of these different areas. So it's quite a variety of schools, quite a variety of interests, I will say, not just in this community, in all communities. Every time the counselors sit down with a family, we kind of have to point blank ask them or try to size up where we're going with this as to not insult their goals. If your goal is to get into the most difficult college to get into, then we know we're probably not going to be working with the merit awards, right? If we know this family has never considered applying or attending a state university, I think we feel comfortable bringing it up, but sometimes there's a little bit of a negative feedback that we get. I think we feel comfortable bringing it up because we know there's nothing wrong with these institutions and you can get a fabulous education there. So.
Just speak a little bit about how...
Well, actually, why don't we let Harris, then we'll ask questions at the end. Is that all right?
Sure.
Okay.
Is that 6 or 7 minutes?
That was perfect.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you. Look forward to your questions later.
Good morning, everyone. As Janice said, my name is Teresita. Terry is what I go by, Wiesel, and I serve as Vice President of Workforce Development and Community Education at Westchester Community College. But prior to this role, I served 14 years as the Director of Admissions at the college, and so it was in that capacity that I worked very closely with Kathy and with counselors from across the county, helping their students make decisions about their next steps in their academic experience. I want to speak to you this morning, and I hope it'll be helpful if I speak first a little bit about the history of community colleges and the sector in higher ed and what it is that we stand for. Then specifically about Westchester Community College, and then in response to some of the questions that Janet posed to us when she invited us to be here, a little bit about some of the unique populations that we serve at Westchester. And then I'm happy, as Kathy is, to answer your questions. So there are 1,108 community colleges in this country. We serve 45% of the undergraduate population. And so when the president really raises up and challenges our sector, our community college sector, to respond to the needs of post-secondary education for our entire populace, he's doing it because we're poised, at least from the perspective of capacity, to respond well to that challenge. And I think that over the years, community colleges, and thanks to the president's focus, we have been able to dispel some of the myths, and Kathy referenced many of them, that our students and our families have about community colleges as a second choice, the only choice, the last resort, especially when we talk about youth. Because try as we may to convince an 18-year-old that a two-year college is an appropriate option and actually something that they can feel proud about and aspire to is not an easy task. I have 3 daughters. The oldest has graduated from college. The middle daughter is a senior at White Plains High School, and the youngest is a sophomore. So like many of you who are either doing it or have done it, the challenge of guiding your children, and especially when I served in admissions roles for 20 years, is not an easy thing. It's the shoemaker's child without shoes metaphor. So this year especially, lots of what Kathy was saying about the cost of tuition at 4-year private institutions is very relevant in my life. And just to add to that, although Kathy deals with it every day, the college to which my daughter applied that was the most expensive was $70,000 and would require airfare. And the college that would have been the least expensive was an out-of-state public institution that was interested in attracting her, and so made the cost for me comparable to what it would have been had I lived in state. So their scholarship, as it were, which is really a discount, was to say your daughter can come to this university and pay in-state tuition. And so that notion of discounting is something that the 4-year colleges are doing. And when we started this process, she said to my husband and to me, "What will I do if I get into a school that we can't afford?" And the answer was, "You won't go." You know, so to get across to our children that there are 3,000 colleges and universities in this country, and there is not one perfect fit, right, which is this romantic notion that they have as they start the process. There are hundreds of perfect fits. And the notion of second mortgaging your home or really putting yourself in financial jeopardy as a family, when we know that an undergraduate degree may only be the first step of their continued education, is a position that we weren't comfortable putting ourselves in. And in fact, without judgment, you know, well, I guess I am judging. I would question that decision for other families. So that's where community colleges come in. So let me back up a little bit and give you a few facts. I already stated that there's 1,100 of us across the country. There are over 7 million students in community colleges taking credit courses, taking the first and second year of a bachelor's degree, taking courses that lead to a 1-year certificate or a 2-year associate degree that they can then either transfer to a 4-year college, I'll talk a little bit about that more in a minute, or enter the workforce. There are another 5 million students at community colleges taking what we call non-credit courses. Those are courses that might lead to workforce training, an industry-recognized credential. For example, to be a phlebotomist, an EKG technician, a surgical technician, a certified nurse's aide. Lots of programs in healthcare, both clinical and administrative, medical administrative assistant, for example. Those are short-term credentials. They usually do not earn college credit. But they prepare you to take a licensing exam or some kind of industry-recognized credential and enter the workforce, and in fact be a very attractive candidate for an entry-level position, either in healthcare, in IT, in advanced manufacturing, for instance. So those are non-credit courses. We also do non-credit courses in the area of enrichment. It's what people think of when they get the sort of adult programming or the non-credit programming that might be things like basket weaving or learning to speak Spanish for your own enrichment or a survey of history or something about entrepreneurship. But those are non-credit, professional or personal enriching courses. And then at Westchester Community College, our largest focus in the non-credit arena is English as a second language. And again, I'll talk more specifically about that when I talk about special populations. But Westchester Community College is very intentionally committed to serving the growing population in this county for whom English is not their native language. And we do that by enrolling about 5,000 individuals a year in ESL. And so I'll talk about that. But those kinds of things, the workforce, the enrichment, the English as a second language, all comes under the umbrella of non-credit. And across the country, there are about 5 million individuals at those community colleges doing that non-credit work. So altogether, over 12 million individuals nationally taking advantage of education and training that's afforded to them through their local community college. I mentioned already that 45% of U.S. undergrads start their academic careers, their higher ed academic careers with us. And you can imagine that they're a very diverse population. Our average age nationally is about 28 years old, although at Westchester we skew very young. And so we look a little more like a traditional college with 18 to 22-year-olds than the national average. And we, generally speaking, nationally, are 62% part-time. So one of the things that I always tell, and I used to tell high school students, especially those that were thinking college was not for them, was keep going, even if it's just 1 or 2 courses a semester. That traditional notion of an 18-year-old being our college student is not really the picture anymore nationally. So many students will work full-time because they have to contribute to their family's financial obligations or because they don't want to continue full-time. And it's sort of like riding a bicycle, except that if you don't ride for a while, it's a little wobbly. So if you're a high school senior and you're thinking college is not for me, the statement that I would always offer them is go get a full-time job, but take 1 course at night or take 1 course 1 day a week and keep connected to what it means to be a student and what it means to really keep sharp, that toolbox that you need to continue your education. So for community colleges, about 62% of our students are part-time and the remainder are full-time, of course. Nationally, 50% of the students that enroll at community colleges for credit are white students, Caucasian, and the other 50% come from racial and ethnic backgrounds. At Westchester Community College, we are really proud to have the federal designation of being a Hispanic serving institution. You receive that designation, and there are about 250 colleges across the country with that designation. We call it HSI, Hispanic Serving Institution. You receive it when at least 25% of your credit population self-identifies as being Hispanic or the child of a Hispanic mother or father, parent. And so at Westchester Community College, we are upwards of 34% Hispanic on our credit side. That does not include the students studying English as a second language or non-credit. That designation is important because it allows us to apply for some federal grants that are only that you're only eligible for if you have that designation. So it allows us some opportunities that are rather unique. And finally, across the country, community colleges serve about 36% of our students are first-generation college students, meaning that neither parent got a college education. And so when you think of the mission of community colleges, and clearly the mission of Westchester, as providing access in the fullest, most democratic way possible, being available and accessible to individuals for whom college is not the norm in their home becomes critically important to us. And I would say that's a good piece of the population of the students that we serve. So the community colleges across the country really became popular and found their stride after World War II, when people were returning from the war and needed a local opportunity, a local option to study. It was really when going to higher ed, going on to college became an opportunity and an option for a very broad and diverse population. So at Westchester, we're focusing right now really on 5 pillars, on 5 focus areas. The first one is student success, obviously the most important. So there's been a lot of conversation in the higher ed sector about taking some of the focus off access. Okay, it's great that everybody can come in and everybody can start at a community college, but what are your outcomes? What are students really doing? How are they graduating? Where are they going on to four-year colleges? How are they entering the workforce, etc.? So we are laser beam focused on student success at Westchester Community College, and as a result, we're very keenly aware of the metrics, of how many students are graduating a year, of what the opportunities are for them to go on to a four-year college. That's one of the areas of the 5 that we're focused on. The other is workforce. As a community college, we're committed to the workforce development and to play a role in workforce development in this county and to drive the education that can support economic development. And so we partner very closely with businesses, and we want to make sure that we have programs in place that will prepare students to enter and advance in the workforce. The third area that we're focusing on very closely is community engagement. How can we serve as a hub, as a resource for individuals in our community at all levels? That means that we're focusing on a lot of the community education programs that we offer, the non-credit programs that we offer. We also want to be a convener of activities. We want to be able to reach out in the community in this way so that individuals at all levels understand the resource that exists for them at Westchester Community College. And we also, some of you may know, in addition to our main campus in Valhalla, have 5 extension centers that are very deliberately placed in a variety of locations throughout the county. So that is in great part our commitment to access, but it's also our commitment to community engagement. So for example, we have an extension center in Peekskill, one in Ossining, one in White Plains at the county center, one in Mount Vernon, in one of their business improvement districts, and the last one in Yonkers at the Cross County Shopping Center in Yonkers. And so those 5 extension centers allow us to reach out to members of our county for whom getting to Valhalla may not be an easy thing. And some of you are nodding, you know that even getting from Mamaroneck to Valhalla is not easy if you don't own a car. And getting from White Plains to Valhalla is not a breeze either. So imagine going to Yonkers, and we have students, thousands of students who use the Beeline bus service to get to the college, who may take an hour and 15 minutes one way to get to the college, a distance that we could travel in 15 or 20 by car because of having to take 2 buses, etc. We also have about 10% of our population coming from the northern Bronx. So mostly young people who want a different experience, who want a college campus. I hope some of you have been on our campus in Valhalla. I would invite any of you to come visit us. It is a beautiful facility. It's the former Hartford Estate, the owners of A&P Company. It used to be their summer retreat, and it used to have a 9-hole golf course and equestrian stables, and doesn't have that anymore. But it's a beautiful, somewhat bucolic location. So imagine a young person from Yonkers or the Bronx or Peekskill being able to stay local and experience a campus like ours. It's really a unique experience. So I think I was on the 4th theme, and the 5th one, oh no, that was the 3rd. The 4th is stewardship. You know, how we as faculty, as administrators, as staff of the college become very good stewards of this asset that we have. So that involves our focus on trying to procure grants to do some of our special programs. I'll talk about those if you're interested when I want to make sure I'm okay with time. But how we maintain and are good stewards of this wonderful resource that we have. And the 5th is college culture. Again, for those of you who have been in the county for a long time, you may know that we had a president up until January of 2015 who had been our president for 43 years. The longest, Dr. Joseph Henkin, the longest standing college president in the nation. And we're very proud of the legacy that he left us. But we have a new president who's full of energy and really wants to continue to strengthen the work that Dr. Henkin laid the groundwork for and built for so long. And so college culture and how we're coming together to serve our community is the 5th of those 5 focus areas. Let me talk a little bit, if it's okay, about some of the special populations, and then maybe I'd love to have a conversation. Am I okay for time? Okay. Okay, so 2 more minutes. So Janet mentioned that I had been recognized at the White House as a champion of change, and it really was a recognition that I accepted on behalf of the college for the work that we're doing around our support of immigrants and foreign-born individuals. This county now is 25% foreign-born, and that number is growing. And that number is reflected in our numbers at Westchester Community College. It is also a county where 33% of the individuals who live here say that they speak a language other than English at home. And so if we are to serve as an educational resource, and we are truly committed to helping to integrate those residents of our county as fully as possible, civically, socially, educationally, economically, then we have an obligation to meet them where they are and to fill the one gap that we know is the biggest gap that stands between their advancement and their full integration into our communities, and that is learning English. And so the college has really set itself apart as being committed to afford residents the opportunity to learn English from beginner levels all the way up through a course that we call English for Academic Purposes, which is the bridge to get them prepared for college studies, and also to support workplace English. So we have some wonderful relationships with some businesses in the county where we are helping incumbent workers advance their English so that they can advance in their workplace. So that area of citizenship, which is something else we do under our theme of community education, providing citizenship education, working very closely with community-based organizations like the Resource Center here in Mamaroneck, and I'm at a loss because it used to be the Hispanic Resource Center. They just, Community Resource Center, they just changed their name. And so we worked very closely with Zoe Colon and with her predecessor, and now with Milan, there at the Community Resource Center. The other cities and towns in the county have similar wonderful community-based organizations that we work very closely with. We actually provide ESL, so we provide ESL not only on campus, but at our 5 extension centers and in partnership with those CBOs. So we provide ESL at the Community Resource Center in partnership. It's our faculty, and it's their wonderful relationship with this community that allows us to do that, and likewise across the county. We're working with businesses. For example, we're currently working with Whole Foods to teach English as a second language to their employees. And so we have individuals who work at Whole Foods stocking shelves, who don't have English levels commensurate with what they would need to be in customer service or to be cashiering. And so likewise, there are folks in produce, you know, who want to be able to communicate better with all of us about what melon to choose and why it's the one and where it's from and all of that. And so we just started 2 weeks ago a wonderful relationship with Whole Foods, and it's part of a national initiative. So at the same time that we're working with Whole Foods, Miami-Dade College, a community college, the largest college in the country, is working with Publix, which is their retailer, to do the same thing. And in Houston, Lone Star College is working with Kroger Foods. And so we're part of this national initiative around workplace ESL, which is really wonderful. I think I'll stop there. I think I should stop there. Okay, thank you.
I apologize for raising my hand in the middle. The question I have for Kathy was just, how do you get the word out to students about WCC and all it has to offer and try to talk? You both mentioned, you know, a stigma, and I know in having a conversation with Marcia Burkett, who is the trade officer at the high school, she said that she doesn't understand why more kids don't take advantage of going to a 2-year college and then going on to a 4-year institution from the point of view of finances.
So could you repeat the question?
Okay, so Nancy is asking, sorry.
That's okay.
Nancy Gardner. Rena's asking, how can we get the word out about WCC and kind of change the mindset? I guess I'm paraphrasing because now I'm saying it really is a change of a mindset for some students of why wouldn't you choose the 2-year option for a better financial situation for you and for your family? It's a tough mindset. It's been going on for decades, really. I mean, I remember it when I was growing up. You know, my parents tried to say, you don't know what you want to do, stay home, go to the community college. But amongst my friends, it was, you want to go away, you don't stay home. But I'll buy you a car if you stay home. You know, you'll be fine. So things we will do, of course, they will come to visit. This year we already had an instant application day. We invited Shanice to come in, who's our representative from the admissions office, to speak to our students about WCC, but we also had a current student who is at WCC who probably didn't picture himself there at first, come in and sing its praises and talk about all the pleasant surprises he experienced while at WCC. So that was really a great day, and we had about 16 students actually apply during that day, and we collected all the paperwork and sent Shawnee's home with those applications. And there will be more. Those were just the students in March who were available that day who knew they were absolutely going to apply. So there will be more. So I think it's in the backs of all of our minds, and it's brought up whenever possible, but programs like that can help. And we're certainly open to, we invited Shawnee's to come in, but she quickly said, absolutely no problem. We brought pizza for the students and had it during lunch. but we can do anything like that at any point in time. I don't know if you have a guest speaker series. Do you have that? So we could do that, bring in guest speakers as well. But we're really open to any kind of PR that WCC could do as well. It's tricky.
Yeah, I think we have an obligation, right, to tell our story a little in a more pronounced way than we do already. We have 195 articulation agreements, transfer agreements. So, for example, you know, Lehman College, Manhattanville College, Manhattan College in Engineering, FIT for fashion, and the list goes on, where students are guaranteed admission as a junior without picking and choosing credits, but saying we're going to accept all 64 of your credits. You start as a junior. Pace University has given us a $25,000 scholarship, not one, as many as we have students who are eligible. For students who want to transfer and finish their degree at Pace, they'll get $25,000 for the junior and senior year. That's new this year. So, you know, we have to tell that story much better, I think, and much more consistently than we have already.
I just wanted to add to that if you guys could have a football team and a basketball team, it would help me so much.
We do have basketball. We will have a basketball team again. Football's not happening. We will have a basketball team.
Some kids. I'm a school librarian at the American Public Library. A lot of the kids I see, the high school kids that hang out, they are, some of them may not finish their high school education, or they go for their GEDs or whatever. The classes that we were talking about that are non-matriculated, do they have to have a high school diploma to take those, like, you know, like they want to go into medical or accounting, you know, they have to, I'm not quite sure how to help some of these that don't want to go back to their GED or something like that.
So there's two options for students that, I'm sorry, the question is, are there opportunities for students who have dropped out of high school and don't have their GED or don't want to enter a GED program? So I would say if the courses that I mentioned that are workforce related, that are non-credit, if they're in some licensed areas, they usually require a GED. So most of those healthcare programs I mentioned require a GED. There's another option for students to earn their high school diploma, which is called doing it through 24 college credits and meeting what the state calls ability to benefit. So you have to take a placement test. You have to place in such a way that shows that you demonstrate ability to benefit from a college education. And then you can enroll at the college and take those entry-level courses that are credit courses. And upon completion of 24 credits, you will retroactively earn your GED, not through an exam, but through these 24 credits. It's a long process, and it's not for everyone. So if you haven't been motivated to succeed and you're still not motivated, you know, getting the GED through exam is the better route for you. You'll get a short-term reward, you'll feel good about it, and then you'll enter college. If you've left high school for some other reason other than your interest, your ability, your motivation, then sometimes this GED through college credit is a good pathway for you. We do. Yes.
And Kathy, how many students don't graduate? I was asking how many Mamaroneck High School students actually don't graduate.
Yeah, the number fluctuates every year, and it's a handful. I think it goes from 5 to 15 every year, depending on what's happening. Keith, I know you have a question coming up, but let me just say one thing that is very new. In March, the state put out yet another statement about new graduation requirements that are actually going to increase our graduation numbers this year and in the future, which will probably increase some of your numbers. They are widening the appeal on these Regents exams. So they make the Regents exams with the Common Core have made the Regents exams a little harder. So now the state is saying, but you can appeal the scores that are 60 and above. So yeah, it's the pendulum going back and forth. So, and that's immediately, and also 4+1 pathways for students who have the CDOS pathways, who've been doing quite a lot of work experience and who've done the employment eligibility. They can also substitute that for one Regents exam as well. So we expect some of the students who would not have graduated this year because of one or two Regents exams to now have a better shot at that. So again, I think we'll have quite a few students with the graduating this year with it through the appeal process to the state. So it'll be good.
I think you omitted one very important factor, that we have a relationship with Westchester for years. Dr. Hankin, because they have a college bridge program, to which I understand Westchester has continued. You did allude to that because of the credit barrier taken over to the other schools. But you omitted the early childhood development and the partnership of working mothers, student mothers who can take advantage of the daycare at Westchester. Can you speak on that?
I can. So I didn't speak too much about adults at Westchester, but many of our students in the credit programs are adults, specifically mothers returning to the workforce, or some of our students who are not single mothers but who have families. And so many years ago, the college committed to an early children's center on our campus, and we also have an early childhood program at the college. So the Children's Center, which is open to our students, to our faculty, our administrators, and the public, and many individuals have a relationship with the college only because they use our center. That center is open year-round. It is a wonderful 6-week through pre-K program, a beautiful facility on the property of our campus, and many of our students use that center. So they are able to return to school because they know that their children are literally a couple buildings down in a children's center. We have a sliding scale fee, and so students who qualify for financial aid will qualify to use that financial aid to support their children in the Children's Center. And we have an early childhood program and a nutrition program and a culinary arts program. And the students enrolled in those programs can do their field work, their clinical, as it were, part of the program in the Children's Center. So it's working to support our children, it's working to support the community, and it's working to support the internship field work for our students who will earn degrees in early childhood education, in nutrition, in dietetic technician, and in culinary arts. Yeah.
Yes, I just want to make a comment. Alan and I just happen to be graduates of either of these schools. I became involved with Westchester Community College, and I'm so thrilled and so impressed that we are now involved in Celebrity Salons as a fundraising project, and we have met many of the students, and 2 of them recently were off the streets, homeless in Miami, were so bright that people found them and got them scholarships into WCC, one of whom is now going to Columbia, and one of whom is now going to Yale. You guys are fabulous.
So we're focused very much on retention. Our retention rate from fall to fall is about 65%, which is actually a little better than the national average, not good enough. And our retention rate from fall to spring is about 80%. So we know that our students are juggling priorities. We know that they have reasons to stop out, which is what we call it, right? So our students may be with us for a year, and they may pull out for a semester. And then we may see them again the following semester. And it may take them 3 years or 4 years to complete what could be a 2-year degree full time. So we're, again, right now focused very intentionally on understanding who those students are who don't return to us, why don't they return, what can we do to bridge that gap for them. It is often financial, but it is not only financial. It's other life priorities.
Yes.
This question is for you, Kathy. I'm personally aware of mostly Hispanic families that are struggling economically. It may be two parents, and quite often it's just a single parent, often a mother, who focus and experience isn't on going to college, but mostly just getting by. And this parent or parents will have a child at the high school, and they don't know anything about college, but often my sense is that there's a danger that this student will sort of fall through the cracks when it comes to the process of guiding them to availing themselves of whatever opportunities, and particularly for a student in this particular situation, what opportunities there are. So my question is, are there any particular efforts or programs within your department at the high school that is aware of this kind of circumstance and what is being done about it?
Absolutely. So all of our evening programs that we have for parents are translated into Spanish, and our invitations as well. We try not to specialize too much with the counselors, but we do have 2 Spanish-speaking counselors. Again, we don't want them to be seen as the only counselors who will work with Spanish-speaking students. In fact, most of our students do speak English. A lot of their parents do not. So we bring in those, if they are not the counselor of the student, we bring in those counselors to speak with the parents. We have programs that are specifically for the students that are Spanish-speaking or Hispanic. We have a scholars program. We have, well, that's first generation, and many of those students in that program are of the Hispanic background, and this would be students that were on the cusp, we think, of being able to do advanced level work, and they were nudged in that direction. They meet 2 days after school with academic support, and they support each other. They've been going on college tours. We also, through Zoe Ruiz and Greg Cuddy, have taken students every year to a Hispanic college fair. The outreach has to be stronger, and in some cases, I think it would depend on the child. I couldn't speak specifically to each child, but I know the awareness is definitely there. But I do think some of the challenges are, for these families, is how much of the income is that child responsible for, how much. Some of our students we know go to work right after school until 10 o'clock at night, and although the family may say they're in favor of the student getting an education, there may not be that vision of how is the family going to survive if that child is not working. Transportation is a big issue for these families as well. We can get them through the application process. That's one of the reasons we had WCC come to our campus for the instant application day. We can even do we have 2 financial aid evenings for Spanish-speaking families on campus, and one of them is specifically for help to fill out the financial aid form. So there's a lot going on. But yeah, it comes down to individual names and going after the students and the families to say, let me try to help you, what's not working. And there are other initiatives that in the thought process that haven't been fully developed yet, perhaps involving people from the community to work as mentors. But this is like in the baby stages of how can we do this and make it work, things like that.
We haven't spoken at all about status and citizenship status or lack of it. And so I just want to say that in 2002, then Governor Pataki signed into law a bill that allows young people who have graduated from high school in New York State or earned a GED to qualify for in-state tuition at CUNY and SUNY colleges. So any young people who go through the Mamaroneck School District or even arrive late and do 2 years in Mamaroneck High School and graduate or earn their GED are eligible for in-state tuition, regardless of their status. We do not ask status. We ask, are you a U.S. citizen, yes or no, but we don't proceed to ask status. The counselors know, not only at Mamaroneck, but at high schools all over the country, that this is an opportunity that's afforded to all of their graduates, regardless of their status. At Westchester, we offer every year, and thank you for referencing scholarships, we offer every year $1.5 million in scholarships. So even though we cost, it's actually just under $4,000 a year now, that's prohibitive for many of our families in Westchester County. And we are really proud to offer, and it's not a discount, it's real money, because as a public institution, we're not allowed to discount our tuition. We offer every year $1.5 million in scholarships awarded to students regardless of their status, based on their need and based on their story. So we ask students to write an essay, and the guidance counselors often intervene. So that's a message that we need to, in a shared way, get out to individuals. There are young people and their families who are afraid to apply to college because they think that somehow that information will be divulged to USCIS or to ICE or whatever it might be, and it couldn't be further from the truth.
I have one last question. Last one.
So wonderful that we have it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Question. I was looking away for a certificate program after high school. And credits ever awarded for experience, like field or internship that they did, things that put it together as an undergrad at schools. Life experience ever count?
The question is, does life experience ever count towards credit, or any of the non-credit credentials that we offer ever translate into credit? The answer to the second part is yes. We have what we call career pathways and articulation agreements where non-credit experience is granted credit. The college doesn't have credit for life experience in a formal way, as many colleges do, but on a case-by-case basis, often faculty will allow for credit for life experience. It's an area that we are a little behind in.
It used to be online education was considered a little bit, online education for college used to be considered a little shaky. It's popping up more and more, and I think that is something that we can consider for some of our alternative population as well. On a cruise last year, I met someone who works high up in Starbucks, and he said, for our full-time employees, we're allowing them unlimited tuition through University of Arizona online. And I said, well, Starbucks is right around the corner from us. That's kind of an interesting opportunity. I'll be curious to see if things like that do pan out. It's not something that we necessarily pigeonhole students for, but I think that there are all kinds of opportunities that are coming up for students who are in non-traditional situations that we have to keep our eyes on to see, are these legitimate and are these things that can help out our students. So it's an ever-changing landscape.
So we realized we forgot Jeff's tidbits this morning, so we'll move to that. But first, I want to thank Catherine Quackenbush and Teresita Wissell so much for joining us today.
I want to say, if you are an addict on tidbits, next month we will not have a tidbit, we will have a grand tidbit based upon the town of Mamaroneck. We did the village of Mamaroneck, we're now doing the town of Mamaroneck, and there will be a surprise panel. It will be a lot of fun. See you then.